Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin for Family show, where every guest is your new BFF. That's your Bitcoin friend forever. I'm Scott from Shamri, and it's an honor to have you here once again. Thanks to everyone that's been watching or listening. I hope you're finding the show fun and educational. Now, onto the show. What's better than being a girl dad of one, a girl dad of two, which I can attest to? What's even better, and probably even more chaotic, a girl dad of three. And as I just learned, soon to be a girl dad of four, which is going to get even more chaotic. So, with all that said, I'd like to welcome today's guest, our good friend, Francisco. How you doing?
What's up, Scott? Doing
Thanks for
great.
having.
No, thank you. I was actually gonna say it's really interesting. I like the introduction
Some
because it is chaotic and at the same time it's so beautiful. Um,
exactly.
and then just for the last one, we don't know for sure. We're just assuming it's
That
gonna
is
be a
true.
girl. Yes.
I made that assumption
Yes.
too there. So it could be, girl dad of three and a boy dad of one. You
Yeah.
never know. Throw that
Yeah.
curveball
At
in
this
there. But
point, my wife and I think that we got it. We we jokingly say, "Oh, we're kind of experts," and I think that as a girl, that I'm an expert. So maybe there's a curve, and here's a boy. Now deal with what boys are like. But either way,
exactly.
the most important thing is health.
Yep,
Really excited
totally.
for that, though.
And if it's a
Yeah.
boy, then I guess you'll have to go back and start buying new clothes and all that stuff. You can't reuse
Yeah, you're right.
the one,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it'll cost a few more sats to have the boy, but that's like you said, it'll be fun nonetheless. Well, I know we've been had the honor of being friends for a handful of years now. Actually, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my first memory of us meeting in person was at Bitcoin 2021 in Miami, when Mallory and I had the small table in the gaming zone there. And I remember seeing you from a distance, giving away. I think we had probably talked on Twitter, as my guest, and coming over and talking for the first time. And, ever since seeing each other in person in Miami that first year and every year since, whether it was Miami or Nashville or soon to be Vegas, being able to get to know you and your family has been awesome. And Yopaki, which we'll talk about a little bit at the end, but I think the people will enjoy learning about your family life. And with that said, maybe whatever you're comfortable sharing, let people know a little bit about like yourself and your family and like how many kids you have, their ages, if you want, just high level stuff before we dive into the questions.
For sure. And yes, you're right. It was 2021. So your memory is right.
There we
I
go.
don't know if you've seen this just before I kind of get into me. I don't know if you've seen this over the years because obviously we're I still wouldn't call it mainstream in terms of Bitcoin. We think we are because that's all we breathe and eat and sleep and see. And yes, there's the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve and there's the ETFs and Wall Street's playing the game now. But it's still when you talk to people outside of Bitcoin, it's still something that it needs a lot of work and efforts like yours in terms of education starting from really young is important. So I guess back in 2021 as an attendee that I was pumped to go. I had never been to a Bitcoin conference. I loved Bitcoin, but I still didn't know everything there is to know in that journey and that proof of work that we talk about as Bitcoiners. And I'm pretty sure also for you as you grow your audience, just for context, 2021, and I think you'll agree with me, was magical for so many reasons. It was obviously the year that Jack Mallers, took the stage. It was the year that Bukele announced the Bitcoin uh, as as money. And although things have changed because of other things that have happened in the world, that was pretty special. I can also go back to 2021 and remember the types of conversations and people I met like yourself that up to 2025 today continue to be friendships. And every time we talk, I feel like it's really genuine and we're all rooting for each other, or at least I am rooting for all of my friends, sometimes even a few that have turned into potential competitors and whatnot. At the end of the day, I'm just happy that as Bitcoin grows, we can look back and say, huh, 2021, man, that was pretty special. And now to be here, that so just kind of, I know it's a long intro and not even me, but I just remember that year as a very special moment in my professional career and as an entrepreneur that I can get into. But yeah, as Scott mentioned, my name is Francisco. I was born and raised in Mexico City. I was actually born in Guadalajara, grew up in Mexico City, and I've been living in the States for over 20 years. Right now, I live in Austin, Texas. One of the reasons I moved to Austin was because of the Bitcoin scene. and wanted to start something in the space, which is a company that I run called Yopaki. For context, also Yopaki is a play on word that originally comes from the Aztec language. That's the ancient civilization in that region of the country, and it vaguely means the pursuit of happiness. Yopaki, that's what it means. And as a company, one of the things we do is, if I were to give you the TLDR, the professional way of saying it, or the formal, we are a Bitcoin neobank, right? But what does that mean? At the end of the day, we're trying to help people understand the importance of Bitcoin. And the way we do that is we've taken a cultural approach where we allow our users to play a game that is popular in the country. It's called Loteria, kind of like bingo. We can dive into that more later, but we grant them sats, so people are getting their first exposure to Bitcoin from us. And that journey takes them from having sats into a wallet that is integrated into our app. And once they have those sats, the journey takes them into, what can I do with these sats? And that would be the spending them. So in Mexico, we have the ability for our users to spend their sats and go pay for tacos in a corner via transfer, so they can convert that. So that whole experience ideally will continue to lead people into learning what Bitcoin is, using it, and then the final boss is, why don't you buy Bitcoin now? And that's our ultimate play. So Bitcoin neobank exchange with a cultural twist. And yeah, I guess that's the kind of the macro high level of what we do here, what we're
Perfect. And
trying to do, because it's a lot of work.
exactly. I know Yopaki, and we'll dive into Yopaki and the Bitcoin block party and some of that towards the end as we tailor the questions. And most importantly, as we mentioned, father of three, soon to be father of four.
Yes.
How old are the three girls?
Oh yeah, there's a big gap in their ages. So I can actually walk you through some of the things that happen at different stages, even for you as a
Exactly.
father too. So I do have a 19-year-old, so full into the teenage adult, 17-year-old, and then a 2-year-old.
Yep. So
So it's pretty humbling, because the first time around, just being younger, you think certain things. Fast forward, and now as we've had a second version of now our 2-year-old, the things you learn as a father, it's just, I mean, I think I consider myself to be a patient person, but this is like a next level of that. So it's amazing. And girls, I mean, I don't have any boys, but girls are just so loving, and having them again, see them go from baby 2-year-old, now the 19-year-old, who now goes to college and calls me and says, hey dad, or papa, man, I'm sorry if I was a little bit difficult towards the last year and a half. You were right. And, life is more difficult than I thought. And I appreciate all the advice and the love. And, now I'm taking that into my roommates, and I can appreciate, like, those moments, man, are so, so special when you get those phone calls. And, it's just, to be honest, it's just a blessing. I love being a dad, man. I love it.
yeah, no, and it comes through every time, when we're able to talk, or even when you're talking to Mallory and that sort of stuff, or interacting with Charlotte and Zoe at conferences, you can see that it's your true passion. Obviously, there's the business and everything else, but it comes through and through your love for the girls and being able to raise them. And it will, I'm sure the audience throughout this episode will learn more about that as we go. But let's kick it off in a fun way. And so, some breakers. And so, as people heard, Francisco does have that unique experience from growing up in Mexico, now being in the States, but focusing on a lot of work in Mexico. So we'll tailor that to a lot of these questions, and especially this first icebreaker. It might be the toughest question you get.
Hmm.
Taco or Bitcoin? If you had to pick one to represent Mexico forever, which would it be and why?
Did you say taco or Bitcoin? Oh man, yeah, you're putting me in a spot that it's yeah, this is good. I like it. It's spicy, Scott.
It
Taco.
could be a spicy taco or not a spicy taco. That's up to you.
Man, spicy taco. Spicy taco.
Going with the taco over the Bitcoin. Okay, we got it there.
Yeah, for representation of a country. Ooh, yeah, that's big. I mean, yes, yes.
Okay, you got to make the people's stomachs happy. Okay, question number two. As a dad of three girls, as we mentioned, what's the funniest thing you've been roped into doing for them, or a different story that comes to mind? Something that made you laugh that you didn't want to do.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, my mind's going into a million places, but so I don't know if you've been involved in this because you also have, Charlotte who's growing up, and the things we do at home are so funny sometimes. So I like to dance, but we have dance offs. That's like the one thing that like the day-to-day people that I deal with would not imagine the dance offs I have with my daughters. Like, wait, what are you doing? So that would be embarrassing, funny. I wouldn't change it for anything, but that's not something I do on social media.
Perfect. We'll have to
Yeah,
get an undercover video to splice it into the episode.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect. And there is some forced dancing here from Charlotte sometimes too. Actually, it was just happening yesterday between when we do our homeschool with her, she gets little breaks in between subjects. It could be a mixture of things, and sometimes
Very nice.
yesterday it was a dance party, and so being able to do that, so I know the feeling. Okay, next icebreaker. If you could send a Bitcoin transaction to your younger self in either Guadalajara or Mexico City, what advice would you attach to it
There's a reason why you didn't give me these questions before. This is really good.
when it comes to the heart?
Yeah, we're talking about what age, how old I am in this
Up to you.
scenario.
Up to you. So, you can pick the age. Maybe when you think that advice would have been both worthwhile, most worthwhile.
Okay, so oh man, I'm gonna go 16-year-old, so young but not a kid. But I'll tell you why. So my favorite book of all time, it's a novel, but my favorite book is The Count of Monte Cristo. And during that, so I read it when I was 15, 16. And during that time of I guess, of my life living in Mexico, we were going through some very difficult times financially, and we were going through some tough times. That maybe we can even talk another time. It's fun to share too, but let's just say it was tough. And reading I don't know if you've ever had a chance to read it, but it's a masterpiece in proof of work and in patience. So if I were to tell myself an advice, it would be just be patient. Don't touch this Bitcoin. This is something that Edmond Dantes would do, which is the main character, and this is something he would do. Like, to me, that would speak as a really, this is what he would do. I honestly think that would do it for me instead of just, yeah, that would do it.
Oh, perfect. And your 16-year-old, it'd be a pre-Bitcoin. So your 16-year-old would probably be saying, "What the heck is Bitcoin to begin with?" And put it in the back of your head.
Yeah, hold
Yep.
on to this. Yes.
Awesome. Well, people have to go check out that book. Um, number four. And so you're known for throwing a Bitcoin block party as part of some of the work you do.
Oh,
Let's
you're
say
gonna
you're
bring it
throwing
up, yeah.
A Bitcoin block party for kids. What's the one snack or activity that has to be there to make it a hit?
Oh, wow. This is probably a better question for you because I haven't done one for kids per se.
But you're a kid.
So,
You got kids.
yeah, yeah, I do. Oh man. Something with are you familiar with dulce de leche or like cajeta caramel?
No, but go
We're
for
gonna
it.
have we're gonna have to change this, Scott. Like we're gonna have to introduce you to it. So dulce de leche or cajeta, as it's known in some Latin American countries, it's like a caramel. So there would have to be a cake with caramel drizzle in the middle and then on top, dulce de leche.
Okay, that sounds
That has
delicious.
that has to
I don't
be
even
it.
have a sweet tooth, but that sounds delicious, and I could tell you the other members in my family would love it. So feel free to bring that along
And
to
you can
Vegas.
tell I have a sweet tooth too, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. No, that sounds nice and filling and delicious. So perfect thing for the block party. Okay, last icebreaker before I hit the deeper stuff. What's
Mhm.
the most unexpected place that you've tried to explain Bitcoin? Maybe a kid's birthday party, family reunion. Is there some weird place that the topic comes up that you think of?
Yeah, I actually have a really good one.
Okay.
Um, so I have a sister-in-law who lives in Europe, and at the time of this story, she was living in Amsterdam. This story that I'm going to tell you real quick, it happened during COVID when everything was shut down, like including the planes and travel was, at stake of is it going to continue? We were traveling to Amsterdam to visit her for my birthday, and I think I froze. Can you still hear me?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, okay, great. Um, we almost didn't get on the plane, so we were on JF. My wife and I were at JFK Airport. the announcement was made by Trump at the time that all travel was, in question. We actually missed our original flight. We had to tell my sister-in-law. She said, "No, you guys, we have everything ready to spend the next couple of days together." Long story short, we ended up catching the next flight at the risk of, are we gonna be able to come back to the States? But anyways, we get there. We go out and celebrate. Amsterdam at this point had not shut down, but the world is at a crazy stage. We go to a bar, and I'm talking to a couple of Dutch people, or a couple of my sister-in-law's friends about Bitcoin. So we're talking about Bitcoin. By the way, this day it dropped to 3,000. This was the drop of that year. So I'm trying to tell them why it's so important. In the middle of chaos, the beginning of COVID, travel shuts down, Bitcoin's at 3,000, and I'm still like, hey, yeah, no, it's the future. I think that's
The chaos all around you, but you were nice and calm.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect. And hopefully they listened.
No, I don't think they did.
Probably that's the typical case, but
Yeah,
we can
that's
all
it.
hope.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, hopefully those some fun questions there for the audience to get to know you a little better, and we'll keep chugging along. So let's dive a little deeper into family life and everything else. As we mentioned, you grew up in Guadalajara and Mexico City. Do you have a favorite memory from your childhood that kind of shaped who you are, and how does it influence how you parent today?
Mhm. Yeah. You live in California, so you might be in contact with some of the cultural aspects of Mexico. Um, it's not exclusive to Mexico, but I would say that a lot of Mexican families are very family focused. I was very close with my. I have two sisters. I was very close with my parents, with my grandparents. Growing up, we used to visit my grandma every weekend, and she would just make a huge event of us coming to visit every week. I mean, it wasn't like every couple of months. It's literally every Friday or every Sunday, and just hanging out with the cousins. And she would always have this huge meal for everybody. That's still today one of the things I miss the most of being a kid. My grandma's no longer with us, so I think that played a role. She was very honest. She was a great example of love, and yeah, I think that would be my one of my all-time memories. And then, of course, maybe most people that have been to Mexico, the food. The food is the other one. The smells, the flavors, the options, the fact that you can make something with a tortilla in 20 different ways. Yeah, the food.
No, those are two awesome things. I know, like you mentioned, us living so close to the border here, being able to experience it both in San Diego or being able to hop across or flying down to Mexico City. I was lucky enough to get some Mexico City restaurant recommendations from Francisco a couple of years ago, which were spot on. So yes, the food and the food combined with what you're saying about your grandma really go hand in hand. Since
Mhm.
part of the reason you guys were coming together was to eat, and be together to enjoy that. Um,
Yeah, not to super sidetrack, but so this is since we're friends and I've actually never shared this, might as well do it in this type of setting. Um, if I wasn't doing Bitcoin, I would actually be doing something related to food.
nice.
Yeah, that's how much I mean, because I do cook and whatnot. So if I wasn't in the space, I think that would be the other. It would be food related, restaurant. Yeah, yeah,
Then that begs the question that, wasn't on my list, obviously. What's your favorite meal to cook?
yeah. There's one dish you might have not heard of, but it's called rajas. Uh, rajas is. Are you familiar with chiles poblanos, or like the stuffed peppers,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with cheese and okay.
Yep, yep.
So that same pepper, that I think in the States it's called Anaheim pepper, which is the really dark green. So this dish that I'm talking about has those peppers diced with onions, mushrooms, and I know it sounds funky, but it really is magical. So it's mushrooms, the peppers, uh, grilled chicken, sour cream, spices, and then you make tacos out of that. Sprinkle some cheese. It's yes. If I was competing in one of those those quick chef competitions, that would be my go-to.
So
Yeah,
that
rajas with a with an
that
R.
sounds delicious. I might have to hop on a plane to Austin just to
Yeah, let's do
get
it.
there in time for dinner. Perfect. And do the kids like it? Since that's always another battle. So do all
That's
three kids
so
enjoy
funny
that
that
dish?
yes, yeah. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, I made that this week, and even the 2-year-old eats
Okay.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect because there's always that battle. You can have that favorite dish, but whether one or all of them like it is the harder part.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we know all too well, especially with the
Yeah. I can
2-year-old.
imagine. I can imagine. It's a family favorite. So it would be fun to, I would love to have a moment where all of us get together and I get to cook that for you guys. Yeah.
Perfect. No, I can't look forward to it. Well, thanks for that sidetrack. And you already mentioned a little bit about growing up in some aspects there. Was there anything kind of circling a little bit back to Bitcoin, but really more so financial literacy, as you will? Was there any lessons or things you experienced as a kid that you think made you more apt to learn about Bitcoin and want to teach others and
For
your family
sure.
about it?
Yeah. I mean, I, I was fortunate to grow up with a dad who, although he was harsh at times, he he definitely worried about just teachings. And it's funny because the number of conversations that happen between Bitcoiners, there's always one person that plants the seed. So I don't know if we ever talked about this, Scott, but ironically, it was my dad who told me about Bitcoin. It was my
No,
dad.
that's cool.
He grew up always doubting the system and thinking something was broken. And growing up, I really did think my dad was a conspiracy theorist just from everything, because he said the government this, the government that, and the banking system and the economics of everything is manipulated. And I really thought, oh man, dad, just give it a rest, right? And at the same time, he did expose me to a certain like read for the Count of Monte Cristo was actually a recommendation from my dad, and other works that definitely helped me into at least maybe being open to the idea. And then in 2012, he was the first one that said, "Hey, I've been reading about this thing called Bitcoin, and it sounds like a really cool project, cyberpunk. Can you please look into it?" To not make the super long story, longer, I ignored him for a whole year, and then by the second year, he said, "Fine, if you're not gonna do it, it's your thing, but at least help me." So I did help him, and then he made a few recommendations to start reading it. And once I found out, once I found Max Kaiser because of my dad, that's when I thought, oh, this is interesting. And now fast forward to today, and it's one of my biggest passions. But yes, the speaking of the, I guess, literacy or access to reading, it is important to have an open mind into other fields, not just Bitcoin, but history and economics and whatnot. And my dad was a big figure for that.
That's a cool story. And 2012. So your dad somehow spotted it very early.
Yeah,
Where was he on the interwebs?
you know what? I questioned the same, but the sad part here is that it's not that he found out about it in 2012 and then he just bought a bunch. That's not the story. It's not, and not even in 2013. Even when I helped him, it was a little, and yeah. And then we all made mistakes, and then we at one point we even invested in things that we thought, because we didn't understand Bitcoin all the way, so we lost. And it takes so much to really get into the habit of understanding what Bitcoin is, and we're seeing it right now. Even with all the newcomers, there's interest and there's coolness, but it's a journey. It takes time. It takes time.
No, it definitely does. But that's really cool that your dad played such a role in kind of setting it all up and to where you are today.
Hmm.
Speaking of being a dad, we already mentioned dad of 3, which is an adventure. And you also mentioned there's that bigger gap between your 2 oldest and your youngest, and soon to be youngest again.
Hmm.
When you look back at your past 2 years having the new baby, were there any parenting tricks that you thought you had mastered with the first 2 that you then realized, oh crap, that's not the case. I gotta figure this all out again, as you kind of dove headfirst back into it, 15 years later or
Uh-huh.
whatever it was?
Yeah. So I think the hardest one was because of the gap. It was getting readjusted to the fact that they don't sleep for a couple of, even maybe even weeks. That could be 2 months. But at the time, like real time of not sleeping for, let's say it's 8 weeks, it's painful. It feels like an eternity in real time. Even today, now that it's been 2 years, I'm like, oh, that wasn't that bad. But it's about to change again with the new baby. Um, I think that's one I over yeah, I think I underestimated the sleeping schedule. And then the other one is the fact that they need to get trained for everything, because to a 17-year-old, a 19-year-old, where you can have a conversation, even an adult conversation, it's easy to give instructions, and then of course you hope that they listen, or at least argument why they don't want to. With a 2-year-old, everything has to be about patience and teaching. Even sleeping, you have to teach them how to fall asleep. It's not like they're tired and they just fall asleep. I think some of those things that my wife and I did talk about in terms of the day to day, it's the teaching moments that is required from a very, very little one. Yeah.
Yep. No, definitely those little teaching moments from anything. Right now, Zoe's obsessed with learning how to use a spoon. She's a year and a half, almost a year and a half. So, like you said, it can be little things. Using a spoon, learning how to go down a slide properly so they don't
Yeah.
break a neck.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, 100%. And then the urges that toddlers have, because even I guess it's proven that toddlers have urges where if they want to touch something, there's no stopping them. And if you stop them, then it creates this like, that kind of behavior. As a parent, just understanding that, well, I have to tell them without the screaming and without the yelling, hey, actually, if you touch, instead of just, no, we don't touch that. Well, if you touch this, you could get hurt, or if you touch this, it's someone else's, and things like that. It's just, I guess it's been long enough that, oh yeah, that's right.
Yep. Well, at least it'll be a little fresher this next go around.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
with that said, as we've learned, obviously Charlotte and Zoe for us are a little closer. You can do the exact same thing, but they're a different child.
Oh, oh yeah,
So,
and just to wait, because then there's just don't even worry about it right now. But once you get to the teenage years, we'll talk again.
oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And um, one thing that has always stuck in the back of Mallory's head that she brought up the other day, actually without even knowing that you were coming on the show, was a story you told her. She couldn't remember if it was last year in Nashville or the year before
Hmm.
in Miami, but
Hmm.
you told her a story. You're talking about your two older girls, and you said, one of the things that I do as a father in my relationship with them is if they're having a problem, and before they want to talk to me about it, before they even start, I say, "Do you want me to? Are you looking for me as a venter, or are you looking for my opinion? And which one is it?
Yeah,
So I know going into this, so then
yeah,
you can have it either way." And that story has always stuck in the back of Mallory's head. So I figured, and it's a cool one to me too. So maybe tell the audience a little bit about that approach, because I think many people will find it helpful.
yeah. So that came about, and that's really cool that she remembers. So that came about at the teenage stage, because we did notice a certain type of behavior which we can remember being teenagers, and just thinking that, what, nah, I got it, I could just leave and be fine, and then you find out that it's not right. So yeah, we did find a lot of points of contention. It's like, man, you're such a sweet girl, like what happened, so that doesn't advance the conversation and the relationship. And we made mistakes as parents. So one of the things we did notice as a positive was that sometimes teenagers, and maybe even adults too, they just want to vent, like, and that's it. They just want to, they don't even say it's good or bad, just, oh, okay. And then just the I guess the advanced communication techniques of, and how does that make you feel. I don't know if you have this, Scott, at the age that your girls are, but for example, even things like, um our kids they like to draw quite a bit. One of them is actually going into the animation field, and from a young age, I do remember her showing us, things and say, "Is it good? Do you like it?" Because as a kid, you look for that approval from your parents. But again, using the same techniques we were trying to apply is, I mean, well, what do you think? Do you like it? you know uh, Turning it back to you, it's, do you like it? And a lot of times we did notice that shift in the conversation. We didn't do this at the beginning, by the way. I'm sharing this as someone that made the mistakes and then learned through the process, not as like, oh, we got all the answers. We don't. But we did notice a change in the type of behavior and conversations that we have with our daughters from that type of communication, instead of, ah, it's really good, or like, ah, it's not, or whatever the case might be. um, so that's really cool that she remembers this. I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for connection with your kids.
No,
Yeah.
and it's an awesome story. And I think one of the overarching points there is one, treat them like an adult, talk to
Hmm.
them like an adult from a young age. That's one of the
Hmm.
philosophies that we have in our household. Let them have the responsibility, let them hear about decisions being made. It could even be little things like making the meal plan for the week. What are we having for dinner, and letting
Very
them
nice.
pick one or
Very
two
cool.
meals. That's another tip that's out there. And if you talk to them like that, which is similar to how you were approaching the venting or opinion question, that relationship will be so much stronger as you keep moving forward. At least
For
that's how
sure.
it's worked out so far.
And something we didn't do that you guys are doing that I mean, although I have older kids, you have more experience in the homeschooling. We didn't do that. We're planning on doing that this time around. So when it comes to that, I have no experience doing that. And we've talked to other people that have done it. So yeah, I mean, that's also going to be a new adventure because I'm pretty sure it's difficult to switch from parent to educator to disciplinarian, but also loving figure. Like there's a tough balance for the parent. So
Yeah.
that's something that as much as we try to learn, like, oh, we have teenagers, we don't know what that's going to be like.
Yeah, no, the homeschooling thing is definitely a wild road. Obviously, we're here to help you and anybody else who's out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Mallory definitely initially took the lead on learning about the different options there, and how we want to structure. And even as the kids get older, it kind of shifts
Hmm.
from there.
Hmm.
But it takes up a lot of time, but it's definitely worth it. For example, we're sitting here today and earlier today on every Wednesday. Mallory has a homeschooling co-op that the kids go to, and I join every other Wednesday because Mallory runs one of them every other
Very
Wednesday
nice.
in our local park, and it's science themed. And so this week it was her sister happens to be a nurse, so we had a nurse come and talk to the kids about actually
CPR.
showing, yeah, showing
Okay, okay.
X-rays and putting in IVs and all that stuff. So
Oh, it's very
even
cool.
little, yeah. So as you dive down that rabbit hole, there's so many resources out there, including us, to be able to
That's
help out with it.
amazing. That's amazing.
And was there got the gap between the kids again, and so seeing your oldest become big sisters to your youngest, what was that like, and the special moments that's
Oh,
created for you guys?
okay. I'm really glad you asked that. Oh, that's actually really cool. So, oof, wow, it's like a little emotional here. Like,
First one to
um,
cry on the podcast.
yeah, no, no, I'm not gonna cry, but it definitely because I'm very close to my daughters. One really special moment that I had in the first maybe 2 to 3 months of our baby, of our 2-year-old now, was watching my older daughters watch me, you know, change diapers and just, you know, cuddle and have my wife and I just kind of do the things that we do for newborns, and just having them cry and say, "Oh my gosh, you you did that for us." And I remember my oldest one of the times I turn around and she's crying and she says, "Wow, you're such a good papa." I was like, "Wow, like you're gonna make me cry." Um, that I think, again, I don't recommend it to anybody. That this gap because of life, it's not recommended. But given the circumstances, if you do happen to go through anything like this, there are very, very, very cool moments that I did feel like life was generous and gave me that gift. And yeah, it was really cool, man. That was really cool. And they're very helpful. The oldest one doesn't live at home anymore. She's in college, but having a 17-year-old at home is fun because she helps out a lot. A couple of times during the week, if we feel that, hey, we're kind of tired, would you help us maybe put her down for her nap or to sleep? She'll do it, and it's an extra hand that definitely helps. So there's some benefits to it too.
Yeah, for sure. No, it definitely has to be very special. Do you see, I know we see it in our household with, Zoe trying to emulate Charlotte. They're obviously much closer in age, 2 and almost 6. But even, your 2-year-old now, do you see her trying to emulate the older sisters and trying to do things that, are faster than she needs to, just from watching those other girls in the house?
Yeah, little things like unloading the dishwasher or cooking. We cook a lot at home, so I think the level of interest that she has, at least I would like to think, is higher than maybe most kids her age, and that's just because she's watching it. The 17-year-old, the one that still lives at home, is yeah, she's very helpful. It's not just the sleeping; she helps us clean and do all the things. So So baby sister, 2 year old, watches that and wants to be a part of it. Which, by the way, we let her do. Man, the grip they have, by the way, on just because she hands the dishes. It takes longer, but it's a good habit to to allow her to do that. And up to date, knock on wood, she hasn't broken any dishes. Yeah, but
Yep.
that kind of behavior, yeah, for sure,
Yep.
emulate, and it helps. Yeah,
They're always looking up, so he's got to be on your toes. But that was
yeah.
really cool. And you've mentioned earlier kind of stories about being dance parties and that sort of thing in the house. Are there any tips or other tips or tricks you put out there for those listening about how to balance being a fun dad or a fun parent? I guess I shouldn't, you're the dad, but mom or dads that are out there listening, the fun side with the more serious parent side for those that are maybe going to be parents soon or that sort of thing.
Yes, yes, and I'm also going to share this from the perspective of making mistakes and then learning from them, not as a, oh, this is how we do it and it works, because it's not. That I don't want to imply that we've made the mistakes, and one thing we've learned is you have to follow through, because that is the way that the respect is earned mutually. So it you know doesn't need to be screaming or yelling, but if you have a specific task and then this doesn't get done, the consequence has to be execute, like it has to happen. Because if you start like, yeah, you know what, yeah, you were not supposed to do this and I told you this, like for example, you were going to be grounded, but it's okay, don't worry about it, that creates problems later, right? So yeah, following through is very important, very very important. Not just a man as a manner of threat, but as a manner of, hey, this is what the rule is. You you follow, and we can talk about why. But if it doesn't, then you just know the consequence, and that's it. So
That, that's a very important one, and speaking from experience, a tough one,
it's a tough
especially
one.
when
It's oh yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was just saying, no, especially when you're trying to teach a lesson potentially, and those two, the 5-year-old tears start coming or whatever it is, and you don't want that to happen. But yeah, it's a tough balance there. So
I'm a
I know
sucker
exactly
for
what you're
that.
saying.
I'm the worst. I'm worse than my wife when it comes to I'm so bad. I'm just that's why I'm sharing it, because we've made the mistakes, maybe more me than my wife, but yeah, I'm
No,
a sucker for that.
everybody will feel it and make those mistakes. But yes,
Yeah,
so know you're not alone out there if you're feeling the same way.
yeah, yeah.
And something that's a passion of many people in the Bitcoin space is traveling, both as a family and sometimes professionally, and sometimes a mixture of both. And I know you do both of those things. So kind of a two-part question. First part, when you have to be away because of whether there's a conference or going down to Mexico City to promote
Hmm.
Yopaki, and your wife has to be at home manning the ship, or vice versa if she's away
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
have to. What's that like, and what are some tips for those out there? Being able to keep the sanity between you guys while making sure the kids are alive.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that there's no easy answer. Again, we're just also testing, trial and error, what works best, and then what changes based on the age. Um, my wife is very very patient when it has come to my travel schedule. Sometimes, depending on conference season, I have to travel a lot. But I think that when I'm home, and as you know, as an entrepreneur, being a dad and then being an entrepreneur, and then also keeping your sanity as just who you are, like Scott or Francisco, it's a very difficult balance, right? Husband, dad, entrepreneur, it's very difficult. But I think giving this the time that when you're with your family, that's what you're doing, and you dedicate it to its fullest. And then when you're gone, just phone calls obviously help, but I think being present when you're together, that's the most important thing. One of the things we do at home, today, if I'm home, we have family dinners every evening. Like we eat dinner table and we sit down and we talk. And even if let's say the 17-year-old, even if she had a bad day or she's maybe mad at us, she still has to sit with us, and hopefully the exchange of talk gets her in a better mood. Um, I think having a support group helps, meaning whether it's family or friends. We're fortunate enough to have in-laws, or in my case, my mother-in-law helps us sometimes when we've traveled without the baby. And then we have actually traveled with the baby too. So the Bitcoin block party of 2020, yeah, last year she came. So the baby came to the block party. So my wife was also a part of that, and you know this very well because I've seen Charlotte now. I think at two Bitcoin conferences
Yep, this will be
that I
her
have.
third. Yep,
Okay, so yeah, I've seen her and
third year.
she does a great job. By the way, not only is she such a sweet girl, but she's an entrepreneur herself. I don't know if you remember this, but last year she sold me a little bracelet for the baby. It was the animals,
Mm,
and
very nice.
she still wears that because it's getting a little tight, but it has a bunch of animals and yeah.
You'll have
So
to tell her.
having the opportunity that you guys did to, hey, we have a conference that it's the biggest conference for us. We have to be there. You could have just gone on by yourself and man it, but then you brought the family. I think that connects with people a lot. By the way, it's like it speaks to your purpose of what you're trying to do, and it's amazing, man.
No, it's definitely fun. A lot more. It's a lot of work, as you know. Uh,
Oh,
you
naps,
know,
nap schedule, and all that.
yeah, all that fun stuff, but definitely worthwhile and brings you
Hmm.
close together and creates so many memories. And you know, from our side of
Yeah,
things, part of the reason, I mean, so Bitcoin 2023 in Miami was Charlotte's first year. She was 3 at the time, and we just said, you know what, we don't want to leave her back. Like we hate leaving her. We never go anywhere without her. So we're just gonna bring her and see what happens.
she was
And
3. Wow.
yeah, yeah, she was 3. And
Just
so
yeah, she was great.
it was a leap of faith. She's always been mature for her age, and so we took that leap of faith, and it's been amazing ever since. Like we just mentioned, this will be her
That's
third
really cool.
year.
That's really really cool.
Bringing Zoe last year when she was like 6 months old was also really fun. We'll be leaving her behind this time for Vegas, just because
That makes sense.
a 17-month-old at a booth is much different than a 7-month-old or whatever she was. When they're just sleeping.
100%. Oh no,
Yeah,
no, couldn't agree more. Yeah, and
but
and really because they need that sleep schedule is very
oh
important.
yeah, for sure. But on the funner side of it too, we talked about kind of the work travel side of things. But on the funner side of travel, taking kind of conferences and everything out of it, is there a favorite family trip that you guys either have family destination that you've gone to, or one that you guys are looking forward to going to as a family one day?
Yeah. You know Jimmy Song.
I don't know him, but I know of him. Yes.
So I mentioned him because he did the ultimate. I mean, the ultimate family experience. He waited basically for all. He has. I don't want to make it up, but he probably has like 4 or 5 kids. But he waited for all of them to be a certain age. At least the youngest is maybe a young teenager. And I think it was last year he documented it, and they had a blog and everything. They traveled all over the world for a whole year. Now, of course, that takes a level of financial stability that not everybody can do. But what he did was really cool. He took the kids to see the places that they read in history books, and to take them there was really cool. If we could do that one day, that would be amazing. But the places that we have been as a whole family, Mexico has been obviously a frequent one. We've taken the family there. Colombia was another one that was fun, and we actually did a family Hawaii trip a couple of years ago, and that was really cool. So trying to get there again, we just gotta work harder, but and
Yep.
find the time. That's
Those are
one.
two.
And yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one though, one just it would be really cool to go to. It would be uh, somewhere in Southeast Asia. It could be Vietnam or Thailand or you know
Have you been
really.
before?
I have been before, but not
Okay.
with the whole family, just with my wife and sister-in-law and her husband. Yeah,
Yes, we've been. It's one of our favorite spots over there: Bali,
it's
Thailand,
incredible. It's
all that
incredible,
stuff.
man. And the
No, it's
food is delicious, and
yep.
it's so different. So
No,
that would be
we're in the same boat actually. That's Mallory talks about probably on a weekly basis, wanting
oh,
to get
yeah,
back over
yeah.
there and
Get
waiting
back.
for them to be just the right age. And we're probably about the right time, so maybe it'll be a joint vacation
Let's
for
go.
our two families. We'll meet in
If you
Thailand.
ever if you ever go back or to Mexico, not just Mexico City, but anywhere, and please let me know because we would love to help out in any way we can, even maybe time it right. But yeah, please let me know.
Of course, all the good stuff. And as you've started traveling with a baby again, any
Hmm.
travel tips that you've come across for new parents out there that, whether it's something you guys always pack, or getting through an airplane flight? Anything come to mind?
Wow. That is probably a better question from my wife. She's really good at that. Um, I just on that one, I just even play the brute role of like, okay, I'm the dad, and I'll just tell me what I just carry stuff and um,
Maybe that's your
yeah,
tip. Just carry as much as you can.
yeah, just yeah, yeah. If you're the dad, just be there, be supportive. Um,
Yep. Yeah.
Luckily, we haven't had an issue with, for us at least. She doesn't fall asleep on the plane. That is a problem. She won't scream or anything, but she just doesn't fall asleep on the plane. Even if it's the nap time, she just doesn't fall asleep. So on that one, I would ask if people have a better advice for us on that. She's well behaved. She just doesn't fall asleep, and then it affects the night and then the next day. But
Yep. No, you know the drill. Yeah, the plane rides can be painful when either they're
yeah,
screaming or they're just squirming around. So, cool. Well, okay. The tip is for all the dads out there: just use your arms as best as possible.
yeah, yeah,
um, Kind of flipping it back to Yopaki a little bit and the things you've been building. You have the Bitcoin block party, like we mentioned. You created the Loteria Bitcoin game that's part of the app, which is super creative. Maybe talk a little about what inspired the Loteria, and how do you see that kind of helping potentially families and kids get involved with it and excited about it, just kind of playing a game. From our talks, I know it goes back to kind of the history of Mexico, and share a little with the audience.
for sure. So the original idea of the exchange to offer just Bitcoin, because there are exchanges in Mexico. They're not Bitcoin only, but um, this is really more of a even an investor conversation where we met with a few people and we received feedback. One of the pieces or one of the things we heard was, this is actually cool. You have a team that looks solid, but you need something else, because just saying we have an exchange that's Bitcoin only, it actually, it's just not enough. And of course I agree now, looking back, and as an investor, it makes sense. As a passionate Bitcoiner, like, oh no, come on, help me. But it does make sense. So um, the advice didn't come with a, oh, you should do this. It just comes with a, it's not enough, right? So then go back to the drawing board. Well, what could elevate this experience and make it so that a lot of people could enjoy it? And this brings us to Loteria, which is a game that I talked about it, in other versions of it, and I think I can condense it. It's hundreds of years old, right? This game dates back to Italy, then Spain, then Mexico, and it has been used for every imaginable thing you can think of. Retail, and the church used it to represent Christian concepts, but it has never been used at this level. So the idea behind it was, hey, what if we use a game that's already loved, because everybody in Mexico knows this game? What if we use it and introduce some Bitcoin concepts or jokes or memes, and then on top of that, we add the reward element, which comes through the sats. That way would be the first step for a lot of people to get exposure to Bitcoin, to sats, and then what I mentioned at the beginning, getting them into what a wallet is, and then having to use it. So the nice thing about this game is that you don't need to explain too much about decentralized money and lightning and all these things that are more advanced. You just basically talk to anyone, let's say your grandma, your cousin, your uncle, your neighbor, and say, hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? Yeah, but it's not for me. Well, can I show you something real quick? And then have access to the app, get exposure to it, and say, oh yeah, of course I know the game. It's Loteria. And then having them play and say, well, guess what? You just earned your first Bitcoin. Well, it's actually a fraction of a Bitcoin, but then just kind of start that conversation. Um, it doesn't work for everybody, by the way. It doesn't. But culturally speaking, it's a game that is very rooted into Mexican culture. So it's fun, and it came about out of necessity. It just be trying to be creative. Um, there's different versions of this game that we anticipate before the end of the year. Right now, we've been rocking the same one for a full year. So, um, you know, stay tuned for an update coming up.
Well, you heard it here first, so keep your
Yeah,
eyes out as
that this is
2025.
official. This is true. This is true.
Now the pressure's on. It's out in the airwaves of our millions of listeners here on the Bitcoin for Family show.
Hey, you never know.
Exactly. No, very cool, and it's an awesome and unique way and twist on being able to get get people in there, get the imagery and the gamification. So, for those out there, if you haven't checked it out, be sure to. And one thing that I've heard you say before in interviews and talking, you want every Mexican to be a Bitcoiner one day. I believe that's one of the missions. And how, in what ways do you think that's important to start with kids and families to be able to make that happen and kind of see it through different generations?
Hmm. Yeah, it's, to be honest, is to the experience of identifying what it is. So I mean, obviously, you do actually a much better job at this when it comes to the young age. But one of the things, I don't even think we talked about this, Scott, but a couple of weeks ago during South by Southwest in Austin, the Bitcoin Park and Pleblav participate also, but as a satellite event. So we do, Sats by Southwest, where different projects announce different things. And one thing we announced is that this year, by July or August, we'll start Lightning Payments tour. So we're taking a van, we're converting it into a coffee shop, and we're going to be driving around the country in the US, and then we're going to cross into Mexico. We're going to wrap it into Bitcoin theme. And, the idea here is, for a long time, the meme of you cannot buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin. We want to completely destroy that meme. And obviously also to the purpose of users or new customers for Yopaki is to come to the van. We're gonna do pop up style events in different cities, and you get a free coffee. But the condition is you need to have our app, and once you do that, we'll give you the Sats. So you exchange the Sats for the coffee. Having that moment of exchange, this is for people that have maybe never used Bitcoin, is the first opportunity for them not just to accumulate the Sats, but to actually do a Lightning transaction. So the idea behind this van is to also bring families, because we're gonna have music, and this actually, you and I should talk about this, to have a Chavarria presence. Um, so having them experience that for the first time, not just as something they read in the financial section of whatever radio or TV thing they follow, but to see it in action and actually use it, I think that's very important. You know, like I said, you guys are definitely doing a good job with the demographics that are younger. Huge fan of the stuffed animals and the books. So what's the next step, right? So I think as we continue to grow the space, it actually will become more and more important to have kids access to the type of content that they see, and in an easy way too, by the way, and the easiest possible manner, instead of making it confusing or just too noisy.
Yep. And once that's done, what you'll find, especially when they're buying things on the tour and stuff, you'll probably find the kids are going to pick it up faster than the parents in many ways, even
Oh,
though
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
their app or whatever, but they're used to scanning
yeah,
QR codes
yeah.
and it's
Oh, let
second
me help
nature.
you. Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yeah. There you go.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So no, very very cool mission, and love to learn more about it. And everybody out there should follow along as it kicks off over. You said in July.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Right now,
Perfect.
I've been test driving vans for the last 3 weeks. So they got to make the final decision, and then we'll wrap it. And yeah, yeah.
Very nice. Well, final question before we head into the final two questions. Looking ahead, what's one lesson about life that you hope your daughters carry with them as they grow up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna keep it on theme, since we've been sharing a few life stories, I guess. Um, Being patient, just be patient, and it's very difficult as a young person. You know, you want everything immediately. You want it right on the spot. Um, but I have had enough experiences, both professional and personal, to now have experience that waiting does pay off. Now, of course, you still go for it, go for it. Don't give up. But be patient with the process. As long as you're doing the things that you should be doing and learning from the mistakes along the way, I think that the patience, or being a Bitcoiner here, that proof of work does reward you. And then the other one, sometimes maybe it's difficult, especially if you feel like you've had a little bit of success, but then life kind of reminds you that you still have a long ways to go. Is be humble. Sure, I mean, and it's a weird balance, right, Scott? Because that you to be an entrepreneur, you do need a certain level of confidence that you can do anything. But then life also tells you, well, just wait a second. Actually, you can't. Or if you do, you have to, you know, build the right relationships and do it the right way. But you know, those are two that come to mind right now. I'm pretty sure there's a
No.
million I'm missing, but
Oh
those
yeah.
come to mind from personal experience.
I mean, that patience or low time preference will
Yeah,
definitely suit anybody
yeah,
well, and that humbleness is that'll be valuable no matter what you're doing in life, whether it's a parent or
hmm
work or
hmm
friendships. So, perfect lessons. Well, before I hit you with the final two questions, um, let's remind everybody watching to visit Shamri.com to take a look at our family-friendly Bitcoin products, from our books to our game, everything in between, our fun monster characters. We've got something for you. Feel free to use code BFF Show for 10% off. And let's dive into those last two. Okay, so first question. A common saying in the Bitcoin space is Bitcoin is time. Another belief is that time is the scarcest asset that the world has ever created. Playing off of that, what's the biggest gift of time that learning about Bitcoin has provided your family?
Biggest gift of time. Wow, yeah, this is a very deep question. Yeah, you had it
Saved
saved
it
for
for the
the
end.
end. Yeah, this is really good. I don't know how much time people usually take to answer this one,
No,
but
it's open ended.
yeah, you know, as a whole, I think a balance. And what I mean by that is maybe I would have gone through it one way or another, but maybe not. But I truly believe that the time I have spent in Bitcoin and attaching it to I guess one word of balance is the way I eat, the way I maintain my relationships with friends like yourself and others I've met through the years, the way I treat my kids, the way I treat the business, all of it. It a lot of it has come from that time in the space. So just balance. Yeah.
I like it. No, that's a great answer. There's no wrong answers here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's perfect. Okay. And the real final question, if you had one Bitcoin to give each of your kids, which at this point you're racking up at least four now, at what age would you give them the keys and why?
Mm. So this is something that yeah, that's a great plan. Obviously we're working towards that. Um, access to the keys. I was gonna it's funny how where the mind goes. Or originally I was gonna say, as an adult, right, 21, but that's a scary age because that's when you think you can conquer the world. Um, I think that there has to be a reward involved. I don't know if the proper age is, finishing some sort of big milestone, like whether it's a schooling milestone or I don't have a good answer for that. I think at this point it would just be freestyling it. So it's something to think about because I do have the kids that some of them are getting closer to an age or they're like, hey, so are you gonna stack for us or what? But the one thing I can say is because I wasn't given this privilege of just like here you go, here's this for free. If we work on something like that, it definitely has to be uh, from merit, not just as a here you go, here's a free gift. It has to be merit based.
That makes complete sense. Maybe you give them one seed word a year for 12 years or something like
This
that.
is
Set
really
it up.
cool. This is very cool. Yeah. And then
Perfect.
it
Well,
unlocks as you go through. I like it, Scott. I like it.
yeah, something like that. I guess that I hadn't thought about that one before. So anybody's welcome
Mm.
to steal it. Cool. Well, that is a wrap on a very, very fun interview. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Francisco, thanks so much for being one of our initial guests. When we were
Thank
creating
you,
the show,
Scott. No,
no, of
thank you.
course you're one of the first people to come to mind when I knew the stories would be fun and engaging, and hopefully the audience enjoyed it as well. So obviously, before we sign up, where do you want to send people to follow you, follow Yopaki, be able to play Loteria, get involved with the work down in Mexico City if you're having another conference? I haven't asked you that actually. If there's a 2025 version coming up, so feel free to plug any of that before we sign off.
100%. Yeah, and I appreciate you. I wish nothing but success for you guys too. To follow us and in the journey and the events that we're going to be doing for the rest of the year and updates on Loteria. The best place is still Twitter. which our handle is at Yopaki _ personal account is at Francisco BTC, no dots in between altogether. Our website is yopaki.com. And as far as the app, it's available in both Android and iOS. So please play it, stack sats. If you have a card that's your favorite, tweet it out, put it on Instagram, which is Yopaki Bitcoin on Instagram. And yeah, pretty happy that we got to chat. Thanks again, Scott.
Of course, and for people heading to Vegas for the conference, they'll be able to find you there. Are you gonna have a single spot, or are you gonna be walking
But we
around?
don't know. This time I'm going to be walking around, so I'll make sure to come by. Are you going to have the bazaar or the? Yeah.
Yes, we'll be in the bazaar like usual. So everybody listening can find us there and look for Francisco probably in the same shirt he's wearing today, the black Yopaki shirt, and probably a hat on, and he'll greet you
Yeah,
with a smiling
are you
face.
surprised? No hat today. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. I actually thought of that when you first came on. I'm like, this might be the first time I've ever seen him without a hat. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, and thank everybody for listening or watching. It's been a fun episode, and we'll talk to you next time.
Hi, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a good review. And buy your kids some stuff at sawmary.com today. Bye. 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 Bye.